But I'd say the first time I said yes was in the interview. Because when I went to the interview, I had kind of in my head like, oh, I'm just going to do this for interview practice. I'm not necessarily going to take a position, just want to practice. And when I was in the interview, I think the things that really stood out to me were the income opportunity. I really liked that you are compensated for higher levels of performance, because in an hourly job, you could be the best worker at Safeway, or you could be the laziest, just sitting in the break room all day, slacking off, and you're still making the same hourly rate. Whereas with jobs like Vector, you get paid for how well you perform and how hard you work. I consider myself a hard worker, so I like the idea of being better compensated. Hey, I'm Zane Bomer-Vath, and I'm from Seattle, Washington. So I started with Vector when I was 18, and prior to that, I had just worked manual labor, making less than minimum wage because I was doing it like with family and family friends. And I actually found Vector through my high school DECA club, which is a business club. And I just wanted the opportunity to gain skills that were relevant to what I wanted to do in my career, because I did not plan to have a career in manual labor. So when I was with DECA, I ended up going to their competitions, went to one of the conferences in Orlando, and Vector had a booth there, like a career fair basically. And I just signed up. They said sales and marketing positions available, and I said, that sounds cool. And I signed up for an interview. I was very fortunate that my parents supported it. My parents have always been very supportive of what I want to do, but my friends are always pestering me like, dude, you're still selling knives? Like, what? You're still just working for them? And I'm like, yeah. I mean, first of all, it's fun. Second of all, I make really good money. And I don't know, I think part of it's just whatever you do, you're always going to have haters. You got to ignore the haters and just you do you. And if it's working, keep doing it, right? So one of my best customer stories is actually from my grandma. I had been with Cutco for about 6 or 8 months. She lives all the way across the country from me, so we finally got to go visit her. And I hadn't talked to her about Cutco because they're not very technologically inclined, and like I said, they live across the country. But when I got there, I was, helping her prepare a family dinner, and I was pulling out her knives, and I realized that she had Cutco. I was like, Grandma, when did you get these? She goes, oh, I got them back in, I don't know, like 1952. I was like, holy! Like, I know Cutco lasts a long time, but that was just, that really made it resonate with me that, like, holy moly, my own grandma has had these things for 70 years. What surprised me the most was the community within Vector and within Cutco. Aside from customers, I've made so many amazing friends and other employees of Vector, and the amount of support you receive, it's not a very cutthroat, oh, I'm doing better than you, I'm not going to share how I got here with you. It's a very supportive, hey, I want you to come along for the ride too. Here's what I did, so hopefully you can get here someday. I've always been really extroverted, but I think since being with Vector, I've learned to take that extroversion in a more professional and take it in a direction, if that makes sense. Meaning, rather than just having a conversation that flows here and there like I would with someone I meet at a coffee shop, I've learned to be able to persuade people and present something in a convincing way. After being with Cutco for Vector for a while, I did convince one of my best friends to give it a try. And the reason I gave him, and I would give anyone else, is it prepares you for life. I feel that what I've learned with Vector has made me more prepared for being an adult, living on my own, eventually raising a family, being financially responsible, than any class I ever took in college.